Why do you flip your class? I think you flip your class because really your job and your role as a teacher is to support your students and also have the resources that support them as well. So for example, when students take their regular homework home, sometimes a parent can't help them and they don't have any other students to help them that have been in the class. So what's important is that when a student actually does the homework at school, what happens is the teacher's right there to help support the student. And they also have their peers to allow them to talk and work through any issues that they have or have class discussions or develop collaboration skills with other people as well, which is important in the 21st century. So I think that the most important things are equal opportunity for all kids, and that students sometimes don't have a conducive learning environment at home. 2, they don't have the resources available or the expertise available. So, those are 3 major points of why you want to flip your class, because you can produce all those things at school. I think teachers are probably more apt to develop skills around the projects that they have in class, especially around global awareness, critical thinking skills, those types of things right in class. So that's why it's really important that a teacher is involved and their projects are really contain rich, deep thought for students so that they can develop skills. Right here in filming this session with you guys, students are actually doing this instead of a trained professional. So they get the opportunity to film me right here about the flip. So this is a great opportunity, an example of a kind of a student-centered environment. So we want your activities to be more student-centered, where students have the actual opportunity to practice and develop their skills, become more globally aware, become more, have critical thoughts, can work through frameworks that the teachers develop and so forth. And those things really tend to happen at school rather than at home. I think as a teacher, you have to really begin with backwards design. You have to say, what do you want your students to actually accomplish in your activities? What skills do you want them to develop? What types of experiences do you want them to have? And I think if you start with the back, looking at where you want to go and then develop the roadmap from there. I think too many people dive in and they look at their initial lesson and say, how do I use up the time? But how do we get students from where they are today to where we want them to go in developing those rich, rigorous 21st century skills and so forth? I think that we have the opportunity to do that right in class. But we have to be careful about the activities that we ask them to do. There has to be a progression to those activities. You can't just throw it at them. You have to have a real structure around your classroom, and that's just good classroom practice. That's been asked of teachers for a long, long time. So just actually doing it with your students as the main hub of your classroom activity is actually new. They don't do those things at home, but they do them at school, where they have the resources, the expertise, they have other students that are available to them. I think the main problems in a flipped classroom were that people were really focused on the technology end of it. Students aren't allowed to have phones, so how are phones going to be best acclimated into a classroom? Students don't have the technology resources available to them at home, so how are we going to have students watch videos if they're required? And some of those solutions came really by individuals thinking through the process in their own class. Each individual teacher can account for rules of when students use their phones and when they don't. We used a stoplight policy of a red classroom, yellow classroom, and green classroom based on either daily, so the student in a red classroom wouldn't be able to use the phone that day, or it's a general rule throughout the year. In yellow, it's with teacher permission, and with green, it's really, the students are freely able to use it based on the environment that the teacher sets. The solution that we thought of around, if students don't have technology is, we either supply the technology for the student, like a calculator in class, or a Chromebook that we may use in class, or maybe the media center is available at lunchtime or after school. We tend to look at holding, tutoring, and different activities in spaces where they have the available technology ready to use. I think before you get hung up in technology, I think one of the things you have to ask yourself is this. is that could I do this lesson without the technology pieces? And I think that's the biggest hang-up that people have, is that they focus solely on the technology and maybe their inexperience with technology or lack of technology. And can you actually flip your routine so that you can do the activity with your students in class? I think that's where the flip is. The flip is really allowing yourself to do the routine with your students in class, and how do you best deliver the preload or some of the information that the students need before they start the lesson. Can you use YouTube, or can you have a student film you with using just their phone, or can you have even a student do it? Why not? 18-year-old students can do lots and lots of things. We need to put them in place so that they can actually do some activities themselves.